Hello, I'm Tootight Lautrec and welcome to Glitterature Alley, your back street off the beaten path, under the radar and beyond the pale place to sparkle up your senses while we talk about all things literary. Today we finish off our foray into Shaketube 2019 with a look at Shakespeare's earliest and shortest play, and I do like a shorty every now and again, his earliest and his shortest play, A Comedy of Errors. Now, A Comedy of Errors is really, it's called a comedy, but really it's more of a farce. And the difference would be that in a comedy, you would expect at least to approach a level, even the minimum level of believability. Whereas in a farce, you have a plot that acts by coincidences and tiny revelations, and you have, instead of real characters with full human emotions, you have stock characters. And there are people who, for instance, in the Riverside Shakespeare, they do attempt to argue that no, it's not a farce, it's actually a true comedy. But Riverside Shakespeare be damned, I'll say that it's actually just a farce. In a farce, we accept the ridiculous coincidences, we overlook the severe improbabilities, and we give merely a wink and a nod to characters who are not really full characters. They're just stock people put in place to do things that are funny. Now, lots of things, as we know, inform our reading experiences. On days, there are some days that my mind is fully open and ready to like something off the bat, when, for instance, Sergio has been particularly kind to me or attentive, or on days when I have a cup of nice hot milky tea and some hot buttered crumpets with local honey, and I'm ready to enjoy anything. Or when I have a particularly good edition of the thing that I am reading. So I confess, I had hoped for more from this Folger Shakespeare Library edition of The Comedy of Errors. I should have looked a little bit closer before I laid down my change, but it does look like it would be a good edition for teaching someone who's never read Shakespeare before. It's got annotations on one side and the text is over here, so it's easy to read. It's lightweight, so perhaps for high school, freshman English or something like that, it would be a passable edition. But this one did not really float my boat, and truth be told, with all the hot buttered crumpets and honey, my boat has been floating ever lower in the water lately, but that's another story. So, A Comedy of Errors rests on a case of mistaken identity. There's not just one set of identical twins, but actually two sets of identical twins. The first set of identical twins happen to have two other boys, so two boys are born, and down the road in the poor neighborhood, two other boys are born. And the parents, seeing that the parents of the poor people can't take care of it, buy the other two, and those two become servants. Now, lo and behold, the first twin of each pair is separated at birth from the other, and 20 years go by, and one sets off with his servant to go and find the other twin with his servant, and there are improbabilities, and they happen to land in the same place at the same time. They do end up on the place where the twins are, and all of their acquaintances and friends mistake one for the other, and so on. There are sex jokes, fat jokes, and fart jokes. Oh my. Sex jokes and fat jokes and fart jokes. Oh my. So what's clear right away is that this play is infinitely better if it's seen rather than read. Because on stage you have costumes, you've got antics that the actors can do, you've got physical comedy, but reading it is a bit of a disappointment, simply because it's just not terribly satisfying, and perhaps because it's a genre that's worn a little thin over the years, I didn't completely enjoy it. And the whole idea of mistaken identity is kind of like it's the banana peel of comedy. It's the stock thing that sets things in motion. And in real life, if you saw someone slip on a banana peel, it could be quite dangerous, and you could worry about them and go over and see if they're okay. But if you watch it in a Charlie Chaplin movie or in a Marx Brothers movie, for instance, and nobody ends up being hurt, then ha ha ha, it's very funny. So there are all sorts of things. There are no banana peels in A Comedy of Errors, but there are things like banana peels. So in a more thoughtful play, if you think about it, the concept of mistaken identity could reveal a lot of things. It could reveal hidden layers of a relationship that the people in that relationship didn't realize before. You could find out secrets and shortcomings about one another or another person's life that may or may not apply to your own and may inform the way that you live your life. Or you could find the ability to compare what is versus what seems. And all of those things could be done also in a comedic way as well as a serious way, but it's ripe for possibilities. But I'll give the young Shakespeare his dues and say that it's a rollicking sort of play. If I would love to see it on the stage, but the very form of it, there are parts where it exists in rhyming couplets and parts where it's in I think just blank verse, I don't know. But one particular scene that struck me was the very beginning of Act 2, where two sisters are arguing about the rights of women. One of the sisters is married to one of the twins, and the other sister is unmarried. But when the second twin arrives on the scene and before discovery, he falls in love with this unmarried character. So these two women are discussing the rights of women, but because they answer each other with a rhyming, one says a line and the other rhymes with it, it sort of takes the teeth out of the whole argument. It could be an argument that's really quite effective about the way women are treated and the way women should be treated, and it could set up a situation for later on down the line when the revelation of the fact that these people are not the people that they thought they were, but it's actually their twin. It could set up a whole series of culmination of events and culmination of ideas about the ways men and women should treat one another. But as it is, it just sort of exists on its own as a funny little back and forth tete-a-tete that stands alone and moves along as the action moves along. So in the end, I'm glad I read it, and I would love to see it, and I would dearly love to give it a sparkle star. I don't know if you can see that. I'll give it one. How many sparkle stars would this? I would say I'll give it 2 sparkle stars out of 5. Could be funny. I'd have to see it first, but and you know what? I'm a little bit prejudiced because I know that Shakespeare wrote it. I don't know. I don't know how I would feel if I were an objective observer encountering it for the first time. There are some gymnastics that occur, and yay for Shakespeare for making rhyming couplets and talking about the rights of women, doing it, and other things as well. But I'm going to stick with my 2 stars out of 5. We'll stick with that. So the other thing about the joys of reading Shakespeare plays is that you can have an experience like this where you're slightly underwhelmed and then go and see the production and find out all of the things that you may have missed and come away with a new enjoyment. Or you can recognize, oh, I remember that in the play, but I wasn't able to fully imagine the way that it could have been done on the stage, and this is very satisfying. Or vice versa, you can pat yourself on your smart little back and say, well, I saw something that should have been done that hadn't been done. But the joys of seeing a performance after having read it are multitude, because despite my constant exhortations, you really can never pay close enough attention. But we try and we try and we try, and that's all we can do. We must try to pay attention to all the wonders that are in the world. And on that note, I'm wrapping up my Shaketube 2019 with a comedy of errors, my 2 stars, and a big fat mwah. I'm Tootight Lautrec.